Joy accepts EJ's check. Chanel discovers Johnny blasting Alex. Gabi and JJ share a bed. Days of Our Lives, DOL, spoilers for Friday, December 6th, state that Chad DiMera, Billy Flynn, and Kat Green, Annalyn McCord, stayed in a poor motel in Vancouver, where they argued about Chad's preference for Abigail DiMera's, Marcy Miller, remains over Kat's possibly alive mother. However, Chad called home and learned about Doug Williams, Bill Hayes' death, so Kat gave sympathy as the mood eased. Although Kat offered to sleep on the floor because there was only one bed, Chad persuaded her to accept it while he kept an eye out by the window. On Friday's Days episode, JJ Devereaux, Casey Moss, and Gabi Hernandez, Sherry Jimenez, played a decoy version of Mr. and Mrs. Chad DiMera in a much nicer hotel. Clyde Weston, James Redd, delivered a memo warning that there should be no more tricks or demands. Clyde was willing to trade information on Abigail's remains for Kat, so he said he'd give more instructions in the morning. JJ received a call from Jack Devereaux, Matthew Ashford, who informed him that Doug had passed away. Gabi consoled JJ before they decided to get some sleep. Gabi remarked that since they had previously shared a bed, it wasn't a huge problem to do so again. Gabi smiled slightly when JJ slid in next to her. On Friday's Days episode, Lonnie Grant, Sal Stowers, had a girls' spa day at home with Paulina Price, Jackie Harry, and Chanel Dupree DiMera, Raven Bowens. When Paulina mentioned Johnny DiMera, Carson Boatman, causing marriage problems, Chanel provided a truncated version of the story and demanded they move on. Chanel was just thankful Johnny didn't cheat on her with someone else, since there would be no turning back. Lonnie recognized Johnny's point of view because she had mistakenly assumed JJ and Gabi were in bed together, which led to her sleeping with Eli Grant, Lamont Archie, and having her first kid. Baby David Abraham Grant was stillborn, but grieving together pulled Lonnie closer to Eli and transformed their lives forever. Later, Paulina took Lonnie to the cemetery, where Lonnie noticed that flowers had already been placed on David's tomb. Paulina acknowledged to putting them there because she visits frequently. Lonnie seems moved by Paulina's revelation before placing her own flowers down and saying some kind words to her baby boy. EJ DiMera, Dan Feuerriegel, happily informed Johnny at the DiMera house that he had resolved his Joy Wesley, Alex Ann Hopkins, issue. Johnny was perplexed, so EJ explained that he offered to buy Joy out of her contract and pay her a large sum to leave Salem. Johnny screamed out and demanded that EJ abandon everything, but EJ emphasized that reneging on the deal now would be terrible form. Johnny eventually succumbed and agreed to let EJ drive Joy out of town. However, Johnny revealed there remained one loose end after Joy told Alex Kyriakis, Robert Scott Wilson, about their time together. EJ was not pleased, and he believed Alex would keep the secret from Johnny. On Friday's DOL episode, Alex was taken aback when Joy arrived at his flat to say her goodbyes. Joy detailed the circumstances to EJ, including how she accepted his offer to get rid of her. Alex protested since Joy loved her new job, not to mention it'd ruin her career if she broke her contract a couple weeks into the gig. Joy wasn't concerned because EJ was going to take care of everything and give her a lot of money. Joy predicted that because Chanel kept bringing Joy over and acting like they were closest friends, this would be for the better. Alex urged Joy to inform EJ that she had changed her mind, but she refused to risk his fury. Afterward on Friday's Days episode, Joy met up with EJ outside the pub and accepted the check he handed over. EJ pushed Joy to pack her bags and go now that the deal was official. Back at the DiMera mansion, Alex barged in and asked Johnny where his daddy was. After Alex mentioned Joy's departure confession, he accused Johnny of putting EJ up to what he'd done. Johnny denied it and made it clear this was none of Alex's business, so things took a heated turn right as Chanel walked in. Chanel was baffled over the argument, so she pushed Johnny and Alex to tell her what was going on. Days of Our Lives spoilers say Johnny will have to think fast and explain this intense showdown, so stay tuned. Joy takes EJ's check. Joy Wesley stood outside the imposing gates of the DiMera mansion, a mix of defiance and anxiety etched across her face. She had sworn she'd never involve herself in the Demoros world of manipulation and power plays, yet here she was. Her hands clenched the strap of her purse as she steeled herself. Inside, E.J. Demera sat at his desk, his signature smirk playing on his lips. He barely looked up as Joy was led into the study by Harold. "Ah, Joy." "Punctual as always," E.J. said, gesturing for her to sit. Joy remained standing. "Let's cut to the chase, E.J. What do you want in return for this investment?" E.J. leaned back in his chair, lacing his fingers together. "You make it sound so transactional." "I simply see potential in you, untapped, underappreciated potential. This check," he slid the paper across the desk toward her, "is an opportunity. Use it to rebuild what you've lost, and we'll discuss terms later." Joy stared at the check. The amount was staggering, enough to erase her debts and secure her place in Salem's business circles. But the strings attached to E.J.'s generosity were as thick as steel chains. "I'm not your puppet," she said firmly. E.J. chuckled, his voice dripping with condescension. "Everyone in Salem dances to someone's tune, Joy. The question is whether you'll compose your own symphony or let someone else write it for you." After a long moment of silence, Joy reached for the check. She didn't meet E.J.'s eyes as she slid it into her purse. "This doesn't mean you own me." "Of course not," E.J. said smoothly, though his smirk suggested otherwise. Part 2, Chanel finds Johnny blasting Alex. At Sweet Bits, the bakery buzzed with the scent of freshly baked pastries and the quiet hum of customers. Chanel Dupree wiped her hands on her apron, grateful for the brief lull in the morning rush. That's when she heard raised voices coming from the alley behind the shop. Curious, she stepped outside and immediately recognized Johnny Demera's unmistakable tone. "You think you're God's gift to Salem, don't you?" Johnny was saying, his arms crossed as he faced Alex Kyriakis. Alex, leaning casually against the wall, looked entirely unbothered. "I'm just saying, maybe if you focused on yourself instead of everyone else, you wouldn't have so many problems." Chanel's eyes narrowed as she approached. "What's going on here?" Both men turned, startled by her sudden appearance. Johnny's frustration softened slightly, but the tension between him and Alex remained palpable. "Nothing you need to worry about," Johnny said quickly. Alex grinned, the epitome of smugness. "Johnny here doesn't like that I've been spending time around Sweet Bits. Or around you." Chanel folded her arms. "Is that true, Johnny?" Johnny hesitated, glancing between Chanel and Alex. "I just think he's trying to worm his way into your life for all the wrong reasons." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Says the guy who can't decide whether he's still in love with her or just wants to keep her away from everyone else." "Enough." Chanel's voice cut through their bickering like a knife. "If you two can't act like adults, you can both leave. I don't have time for this." As she turned and walked back inside, Johnny and Alex exchanged a look that spoke volumes. Neither of them was ready to back down, and Chanel knew this was far from over. Part 3, Gabi and JJ share a bed. Elsewhere, Gabi Hernandez and JJ Devereaux were trapped in an unusual predicament. What had started as a routine trip to meet a potential investor had turned into an overnight stay at a remote inn, thanks to a sudden storm that made the roads impassable. "Well, this is cozy," Gabi said sarcastically, staring at the small room with its single twin bed. JJ scratched the back of his neck. "I'll take the floor. It's no big deal." "Don't be ridiculous," Gabi shot back. "We can share. It's just one night." JJ looked skeptical but eventually agreed. "All right. But stay on your side." As the storm raged outside, the two found themselves talking late into the night. The conversation, which began with harmless anecdotes, soon turned more personal. "I didn't expect to find myself back in Salem," JJ admitted. "But somehow, it feels like I never left." Gabi smiled faintly. "Yeah, this town has a way of pulling you back in. No matter how far you try to run." As their laughter subsided, a comfortable silence filled the room. JJ glanced over at Gabi, who was staring at the ceiling with an expression he couldn't quite read. "What are you thinking?" he asked softly. "Just, how weird life is," she replied. "If someone told me a year ago that I'd be here, stuck in a room with you, I'd have laughed in their face." JJ chuckled. "Yeah, me too." But as the night wore on and the distance between them grew smaller, both began to wonder if their unexpected closeness was just a coincidence, or something more. Joy takes EJ's check, Chanel finds Johnny blasting Alex, and Gabi and JJ share a bed. The atmosphere in Salem was anything but calm. The vibrant streets buzzed with rumors, betrayals, and unexpected alliances that sent shockwaves through the lives of its residents. At the DiMera mansion, tensions simmered as secrets threatened to spill, and over at the Horton house, uninvited circumstances pushed unlikely duos together. Joy takes EJ's check. Joy Wesley had always been underestimated. As the youngest member of the Wesley family, her quiet demeanor masked a cunning intelligence. When EJ DiMera extended a check with an absurdly large amount to buy her silence regarding an explosive family secret, Joy hesitated, but not for long. EJ, as usual, looked smug, sipping on his scotch in the Grand DiMera study. "This is a win-win, Joy," EJ said, sliding the check across the desk. His British accent carried an air of condescension. "You get financial freedom, and I get to keep my family intact. It's a generous offer." Joy's fingers brushed against the edge of the check. She glanced at the amount and raised an eyebrow, her expression unreadable. "And if I don't take it?" she asked, tilting her head. EJ chuckled. "Then you'd be making a grave mistake. The DiMeras don't take kindly to threats, darling." Joy studied him for a moment before pocketing the check. "You might want to hold off on that victory lap, EJ. I haven't cashed it yet." EJ smirked. "You'll come around." But as Joy left the mansion, the wheels in her mind were already turning. Money could buy a lot of things, but loyalty wasn't one of them. And EJ had underestimated her yet again. She had no intention of letting him off the hook so easily. Chanel finds Johnny blasting Alex. Meanwhile, at Sweet Bits Bakery, Chanel Dupree was busy frosting cupcakes when she overheard raised voices coming from the back alley. Curious, she stepped outside, only to find Johnny DiMera unleashing a tirade on Alex Kyriakis. "You've crossed the line, Alex," Johnny yelled, his face red with fury. "You think you can just waltz into people's lives and destroy them? You're pathetic." Alex, leaning casually against the brick wall, looked unfazed. "Relax, DiMera. You're overreacting. It's not my fault if people can't handle the truth." Chanel's heart sank as she listened. She had been growing closer to Alex, finding his charm irresistible despite his flaws. But seeing Johnny this angry made her question everything. "What's going on here?" she demanded, stepping between them. Johnny turned to her, his eyes blazing. "Ask him," he spat. "Your new boyfriend's been spreading lies about our family." Alex scoffed. "They're not lies, Johnny. If you can't handle reality, that's your problem." "Enough," Chanel snapped. She looked at Alex, her voice trembling. "Is this true? Have you been dragging Johnny's family through the mud?" Alex hesitated, and that was all the confirmation she needed. Chanel's chest tightened as disappointment washed over her. I trusted you, she whispered, shaking her head. But maybe I was wrong. Before Alex could respond, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving both men staring after her. Gabi and JJ share a bed. Across town, an entirely different situation was unfolding. Gabi Hernandez found herself stranded at JJ Devereaux's place after an unexpected storm left the roads impassable. What started as an awkward encounter quickly turned into a comedy of errors when they discovered there was only one bed available. "You've got to be kidding me," Gabi groaned, staring at the tiny twin bed in JJ's guest room. "This is your idea of hospitality?" JJ rubbed the back of his neck, looking sheepish. "It's not like I planned this, Gabi. You can take the bed. I'll sleep on the floor." "Oh, no," Gabi said, crossing her arms. "I am not letting you play the martyr. We're both adults. We can share the bed." JJ raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure? Because if I hear one complaint about my snoring..." "Just shut up and move over," Gabi snapped, climbing into the bed. As the night wore on, their initial discomfort gave way to surprising camaraderie. They exchanged stories, laughing about their respective misadventures in love and life. By the time the first rays of dawn broke through the window, they found themselves closer than either of them expected. "You're not as bad as I thought," Gabi admitted, yawning. JJ chuckled. "Thanks. I think." But as their gazes lingered, the playful banter gave way to an unspoken tension. Neither dared to make the first move, but both knew that their dynamic had shifted. A storm brews in Salem. As the sun rose over Salem, the lives of its residents were more entangled than ever. Joy contemplated her next move with EJ's check, torn between revenge and self-preservation. Chanel grappled with her feelings for Alex while questioning her loyalty to Johnny. And Gabi and JJ woke up to a new understanding, uncertain of what it meant for their futures. In the world of Salem, secrets never stayed buried for long, and the ripples of these events promised to create waves that no one could predict. The drama was far from over.